Welcome to FreeThinkers Fireside, where we put the human and humanist one cozy chat at a time. My name is Helen, also known as Hell's Bells. And tonight we're going to talk about shameless sexuality with my guest, Janice Selbie. So say hi to Janice.
Hi,
Janice.
Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too. So for those of you who may not know you, why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do and all the wonderful things about you.
Oh, thank you. So I live in Canada. I live in British Columbia in a beautiful place that used to be where the Syilx Okanagan people lived and did everything they needed to do. So it's unceded territory of the Syilx people, and now it's called Kelowna, BC, in the Okanagan Valley. And I work here as a registered professional counselor and a religious trauma recovery coach. My work is online. I have clients across Canada, the United States, Europe, and all around the world. I grew up in a Pentecostal home and then got married and spent time with the Mennonites, Holdeman Mennonites. I was very conservative. And now I'm not. I divorced my husband, divorced my religion, went back to school to become a therapist. And that's when I started the Divorcing Religion Workshop and the Conference on Religious Trauma. Shameless Sexuality, Life After Purity Culture. That's the conference you mentioned. And you can see my book behind me, Divorcing Religion, a memoir and survival handbook.
So you're a very busy person.
I got my fingers in lots of pies. Yes, I do.
Yeah. So, how long have you been out of the faith?
Yes, that's a great question. I would say now probably getting on to be about 15 years, which is so hard for me to believe because it seems like just yesterday. So I'm 55 now, so it wasn't until I was really about 40 that I started making my way out. And it was a painful, confusing process. And I didn't know anybody else who had been as devoted and devout as I was, and then had left religion and went on to live a happy and fulfilling life. So I spent several lonely, isolated years until I discovered the work of Dr. Marlene Winnell, who wrote Leaving the Cold. And then through Marlene, I met Dr. Daryl Ray of Recovering from Religion, and Seth Andrews, and just was a big snowball from there.
Wow. Okay. So, talk. Also, somebody's pointing out that you're a little bit quieter than I am. I don't know if it's the volume of your microphone, because I can hear you through my earbuds. So,
okay. I moved my microphone closer. Maybe that'll make a difference.
I know, Jason. Does she sound better? Jason's in my chat pointing things out. So, and he does text stuff for the ACA. So, what inspired you to do this shameless sexuality workshop? And actually, let's tell the people what it is, and then you can tell the story of how it came to be.
Sure, yes. So the name of the conference is Shameless Sexuality, Life After Purity Culture. And I grew up really being impacted by purity culture, even though we didn't have a name for it back then in the 70s and 80s. And then when I went on to have my own daughters in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was very much immersed in conservative Christianity. I wore a head covering, no makeup, no jewelry. I was real hardcore, and I tried very hard to enforce that on my daughters. So they never got to wear pants. They always had to wear skirts and dresses and very long hair down to their waist. And I felt good about that. I felt righteous, like I was doing the right thing, teaching them that their highest value was their virginity. And then when I left Christianity, when I divorced religion, I started really understanding some of the implications of the things that I had been taught and that I had been saddling my daughters with. And then as I became a therapist, I realized purity culture is huge, especially in the United States. It's causing harm to a lot of people. And so I wanted to do a conference that was just focused entirely on recovery from purity culture.
So, so if I were to attend, what would I expect to experience at a Shameless Sexuality conference if I was going to go?
Sure. Yeah. So this is an online event. Of course, it was going to be held in person in Seattle, but there have just been a lot of issues recently making it harder for Canadians to cross the border and making it potentially more dangerous for members of the queer community to attend an event that's all about sexuality. And I didn't want anybody being targeted for harassment. So I moved it online now. People can go to shamelesssexuality.org to find out more. Yes, that's short for orgasm, I'm sure. And so we have speakers from.
My favorite type of org.
That's right. And so I've got speakers from around different parts of the United States, people who are psychologists, social workers, therapists, who have knowledge and expertise around purity culture and religious trauma and recovery from
Mm.
that. So people from the queer community will be speaking. People from other communities will be speaking, and I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. People will be learning a lot. I really want people to embrace sexuality and just enjoy this part of themselves.
Have you done something like this before?
Yes, yes, I did. So in 2021, that's when I held the first conference on religious trauma, also known as CORT, CORT. And by the time I was doing my third court, second or third court, I realized, oh, I need to do one on sexuality as well. So I held the first Shameless Sexuality event online in 2023. It was a great success. I had lots of speakers. And in fact, people can go to my YouTube channel and they can watch those videos because I'm uploading videos all the time from my conferences to that YouTube channel. So there are some great videos there people can check out from the last conference.
Ah, see, there you go. Ah, smart. What have you found that people tend to that they're are leaving religion and they're rediscovering themselves again? Um, their sexuality, their sense of being a sexual being. What have you discovered by talking to people that is the biggest thing that they're overcoming?
Right. Yeah. So I would say a lot of people that I work with, or maybe they just attend my support group online, um, many of them have never even dated anyone because they were saving themselves for a godly, I got my air quotes there, godly partner. So sometimes I work with people even in their 50s, 60s, 70s who have never been sexually intimate with another person, and sometimes not even with themselves. And then sometimes people who were raised in fundamentalist, very patriarchal families with traditional gender norms, they might even, once they divorce religion, everything comes into question. They might be married to someone that they married at 18 or 19 because they were both religious and they couldn't have sex until they were married. And now they're in their 30s and they're going, I don't know if this is the same person I want to be with. We married because of religion and we're not religious anymore. And sometimes a person might even be saying, I'm not even sure if I'm heterosexual. Maybe I was just conditioned to be. And maybe I want to be able to try some different new and exciting things out. And so people want to be able to talk with therapists and professionals about what that might be like for them, because that is quite a journey.
Geez, I can't I mean, I grew up religious, but I still got to date and had somewhat like there's still some bad messaging that I had to like work through and stuff like that because that's just religion and also sexism and stuff. But and also I knew I was queer when I was younger, so I didn't go through like, oh, am I queer? Like, I didn't go through like having to unpack a religious belief and then come to an acceptance of myself.
Yeah, I had to. I had to do that.
Yeah.
I knew from the time I was about 10 years old, maybe that, women are pretty attractive. I figured that out early on.
Right.
But I also would have crushes on the boys in my class. And because I was raised in a deeply religious home, I knew also that it wouldn't be something that was acceptable. So it's not anything I ever talked about. And I went most of the way through my first marriage before I even was really willing to admit that to myself and to the
Hmm.
person who's now my ex-husband. And so the marriage came to an end after the religion ended, and there were so many changes going on. And then I did have permission from myself to start exploring relationships with women. But there were things that
Hmm.
I had to work through mentally, emotionally, things related to religion. And then I realized, okay, I can be happy. I can be happily bisexual, whether I'm with a female partner, whether I'm with a male partner. So now
Hmm.
I'm remarried. I'm with a man again, but he knows everything about me, and he is just fine with the way I am.
I just say like my partner just happens to have a penis. Like so like as a polysexual person, I'm just like it's not really the genitals. It's just that I happen to fall in love with someone that has a penis. So
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh boy. And Glenda, whom you know, Glenda is going to be
yeah.
speaking at my event, and she will be addressing the issue of polyamory and different things that kind of go along with a new community, a community that's new for people who grew up in fundamentalist homes, and they may have questions. Do they want to open their marriage? What do they want to do? So I think it's really important to be hearing from someone with experience. Oh, I see.
Thanks, Sheldon. It is weird that you just made me think of something, Sheldon, that this idea of saving yourself, like as I was taught that, and like me and Neil, the 604 atheist, were talking about this on Skeptic Haven last night about how, for women, you know, and this is like a toxic masculinity thing that's taught too, you can bang the slut, but the girl you want to spend your life with is the one that's saving herself for you,
Oh,
which
wow.
is it's a very messed up sort of thinking, because I'm like, so she likes pleasure, so that's bad. Bad. It's very
Double
it's
standard.
confusing. But you want the girl that doesn't have any experience, so she won't know how bad you are, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and this is partly why we need to be so I think open and honest with our kids when they're getting into their teens and so forth. And we know that pornography is everywhere. It's easily accessible, even when kids are at school. Now, some of the school computers they can't keep everything out, and so kids are going to be exposed to it even at pretty young ages. So making sure that they understand about consent, about bodily autonomy, and the fact that it's largely actors and actresses that are in these shows. And so we don't expect that any partner that we are with is going to be wildly in favor of things that we've viewed in porn. We have to ask, we have to get consent, we have to find out from someone what they want to do, what turns them on, and what feels really good to them.
Yeah, and I think and because there is so much sexual shame,
Yeah.
like talking about your kids, like I talk to my kids about sex. Like my kids have told me that I give them a better sexual education than the Florida school system, which I am not shocked I did. 'Cause the abstinence only programs suck. Um, and they're adults now. 24 and 21. So, we joke around a lot about sex now. But when they were growing up, I was like, I would tell my kids, because like I had teenagers. I know I'm not stupid. Like, and I'd be like, okay, I'm like, you're gonna watch porn. I know you're gonna watch porn. I go, keep in mind, it's not real. These are actors. And I go, they're being paid and they're doing a job. I go, it's just like a movie. It's like real people don't behave this way. you
Right.
know?
Right. Yeah. I remember, so I had, when I was divorcing religion, my kids would have been in their kind of early and middle teens. And maybe when their dad and I separated, they would have been more middle to later teens. But I remember saying to my then husband, when our oldest daughter was about 15, I said, I'm going to put her on birth control. And he was, that was offensive. That wasn't something that he wanted to do or thought was necessary. And even our daughter at the time was like, Mom, I'm still a virgin. I haven't been with anybody. And I said, well, you won't always be. And when you do meet someone special, I want you to be able to enjoy yourself with that person. And at least this is one thing you don't have to worry about then will be getting pregnant. There are other things that you need to be concerned about, but we can at least take pregnancy off the list for you. And I think that was shocking for my kids and for their dad at that time. But eventually, I think people saw, yep, that makes sense.
My oldest just told me they were talking with their boyfriend about having sex, and they were like, I would like to go on birth control. And I was like, okay. Because I told them, I go, when you guys are ready to have sex, let me know, so make sure you're safe. And I started telling them that in like junior high school, you
Yeah,
know because that's when their hormones are like a blaze of glory. You have to
so
start
true.
telling them, like, okay, you
Yeah,
have to learn to protect yourself. And also, like you said, like, not only how to like physically protect yourself, but how to protect yourself emotionally, because I had a really good sexual educator when I was a teenager that said, if you're willing to be naked in front of somebody and behave as an adult, then you have to take on the responsibility of the adult. And that includes treating the other person ethically, because that's what
wow,
adults do. And I was like,
that's excellent.
okay.
Yeah, I love that. And there's the added just concern nowadays of everyone having cameras and students, even in elementary school and junior high school, their classmates might be actually requesting nude photos of them and trying to pressure them and coerce them. So
And then
talking
you're
with our
exchanging child
kids,
porn, and they get into weird illegal stuff, and that's
right?
weird.
Right. Yeah, so that's part of the bodily autonomy and consent.
Mhm.
And as we're raising children, and I'm thinking especially those assigned female at birth, making sure that they know their value and that they are not just a vagina. That's as a boy is not just a penis. There's much more to them, and so there are lots of aspects of selfhood that they can be developing, even though social media will always try and break it right down and make it as all about sex as possible. So yeah, that's a tough one. It's a hard time to be raising kids.
I'm glad, like, because my kids were young, and like they were born in 2001, 2003, and then they were teenagers like the 2010s. I don't know. I think we did okay. They're fine. Like, but
Very good.
um
Hooray.
like I've turned my son into a feminist and queer positive person. He has a trans, sibling, and a polyamory polysexual mother that's like a super feminist and like wicked loud about it. Like, my kids are fine. but
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
also, but because I'm just well educated on certain topics, there's a lot of people, like, if okay, you're like, let's say it's like people at your conference who are discovering their own sexuality, like in their 30s and 40s or whatever, and then now I have a child that's starting to enter puberty. How,
Yeah.
and I don't want to give them the toxic messaging, but I also know not to go total buck wild and what I talk to them about and things like that, and trying to find like how do I have a
closer.
conversation with my child
Exactly.
about sex and sexuality?
Yeah, and that's where I think if from the time children are small, if you have nurtured that relationship and made them feel very, very safe, so that they know they can come to you with any question about anything and they're not going to be shamed for their question, I think that's a fantastic platform for them to move into adolescence, and then they know that they can ask you about it. And sometimes I'm sure maybe they'd ask something and my face would go bright red, and my answer might have even been, I have to think about how best to answer your question. I'm glad you
Hmm.
asked this question. Let's talk about it tomorrow after I've had some time to think about the best way to answer your question, because we do also want our answers to be age appropriate for them. But I think it worked. Like now, my kids know they can truly ask me anything, tell me anything, and it'll be fine. So it starts when they're little.
It's very funny because when my oldest told me that they started having sex, I'm like, I need to go get some wine. I need a mom moment. Hold on. Like,
I love it.
mommy needs to process. then
That's
then we
great.
can talk. Like,
So honest.
because
Yeah,
it's still like your kids are going to be sexual beings, but still, like, when they tell you they're being sexual beings, it's still a little bit of a shock, and I think it should be. Like, I feel like you can be expressive and have an open dialogue with your kids, like, from when they're young children, like using the proper word for genitals, and um
oh yeah.
have those preliminary conversations.
Mhm.
um like, have you ever seen, like, a 5-year-old take a couple of Barbie dolls and just they're naked and they lay them on top of each other? They're
Yeah,
trying to figure it out. They don't
most
understand
together.
it, but they do it, and then you can go, yeah, that's how some people love each other. You don't make it weird.
Right. Yeah.
And then you move on from it, and then, but when they tell you, when they're telling you, they're doing it, you're like, oh.
Well, I'll tell you what, I figured I must have made a pretty good transition and encouraged them to feel healthy about sex. And here's how I figured it out. When a few years ago, so my oldest son would have been well into her 20s, and she was living downstairs from us with her partner, and we were living upstairs, but we all ended up, we were going to be moving at the same time. So on the porch where we shared this house, we were piling our boxes, and some were for giveaway and some were for we're taking them with us. And I saw that she had a box there, and the picture on the box was like Tupperware type of kitchen containers. And I said to
Mhm.
her, "Oh, I could use some of that Tupperware. Can I take your box when I move?" She said, "Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. I don't want it anymore." And, and then the day came that I moved into my new home, and I opened up the box expecting Tupperware. And first, I pull out these fuzzy handcuffs, and then I pull out a ball gag, and then I pull out I laughed so much.
That's
I took a
great.
picture of it right away, and then I sent her the picture. I said, "Contents not as advertised." And she went, oh my God, Mom, I'm so sorry. That was supposed to happen." I said, "You know what? I'm glad that you are enjoying this aspect of your life. More power to you. Would you like me to drop these off?" And she's like, "No, please just throw in the garbage. We don't ever have to talk about this again." I thought it was hilarious.
To be fair, if, like, if my mom found my sex toys, and or I accidentally, I would be like, no, I'll get new ones. It's fine. like, I'll get new ones.
That's exactly right. Oh God. Yeah.
This is my private stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will also say, someone coming from a fundamentalist background, you really aren't sure maybe how far you've come until you find out that one of your adult kids has an OnlyFans channel. And then that really brings things into stark relief for you, and have to figure out uh, how am I going to support my child, my adult child? What kind of conversation? Do we need to have even a conversation about this? All these things But every interaction is an opportunity to build our house or tear it down. So we need to use these opportunities as an interaction to improve our relationship, strengthen our relationship, encourage each other, speak plainly to each other. So you can do it. If there's a parent out there who's struggling, if you have the will and the desire to do it, you can do
It's very interesting. You know, because the whole point is to be shameless. You know that sex is just part of
it.
being a person.
Yes,
You know, even if you're asexual, you know, you it's still that's part of your identity. Like I'm ace, you know, which is a part of sexuality. So, um, and I think for people like I didn't grow up fundy. Like I had, like I said, I had my own crap to work through, but I didn't. The purity stuff didn't last. Like and letting go of shame, it didn't take me very long. So, because I don't
okay.
have any shame.
I love it. Mhm.
My friends that are here, they know. But I have to imagine though, like for people that grew up in very like shame based
Yeah,
religions, that getting to a point where you are able to talk about sex without blushing, that you know you can make jokes, you um aren't afraid to ask for what you want, you know, with a partner or partners, you know, like um I would assume that that takes a while to get
right,
there. Like you're not going to just wake
right.
up one day and be like, okay, like I figured it all out. You know?
Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. And so actually in my book, Divorcing Religion, a Memoir and Survival Handbook, I do look quite a bit at purity culture in one of the modules of the handbook. And I offer tons of resources in there. And so if someone comes to me and they are, let's say they're 30 or something like that, and they've not been intimate ever with anyone else, then we start gently. Have you been intimate with yourself? Do you know what you like or what feels good? And you don't send them to hardcore porn channels and things that might just be overwhelming to them. Of course, you do talk about ethical porn. That's also something I cover in the book and I speak with people about. But just starting off even with a romantic movie and thinking about what makes you feel good, what is appealing to you about other relationships that you've seen. And then of course we also end up eventually talking about yes, no, maybe lists. I wish I had known about yes, no, maybe lists, and that just goes again with the idea of consent and bodily autonomy. So it's an important topic for people.
Yeah, it is really fun. Like, I guess because it's old hat to me now. Like, when I'm with a new partner, you know, I have those conversations even before we get into bed. You know, like, what do you like? What do you don't like? You know, do you like this? Do you like that? You know, are you into kink? Are you not into kink? Are you kind of into kink? You know, like
You're
those
open to it.
conversations, because I want to have a good time, and I would like for you to have a good time. So let's have a discussion on how to have a good time. I
Beautiful.
I think some people, and I don't, and I think porn and rom-coms like think that, like, you know, you just, you know, you come together and it's all fireworks and it's great, and I'm like, no, I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like you have to have a
Mhm.
conversation about, you know, what your expectations are, and you want to understand somebody else's expectations. You
Yes,
know.
and part of that conversation for me then, when my first marriage was ending and I was back in the dating scene, and it just seemed so crazy because I'd been out of it for so long. But one of the conversations, or part of the conversation with potential new partners, if it looked like things were going to be getting intimate between us, I would tell them that you may be doing everything really, really nicely to me, and I still may not be able to orgasm. And I don't want you to take it personally. I have a deal with myself that I will never fake an orgasm. I won't fake it for you. I won't fake it for me. But I just need to feel safe enough with a partner. So it usually takes me a little while before I can actually really let go enough to enjoy that. And so I wanted the other person to know that because I didn't want them to feel like something wasn't right between us. And also, I understood that it's my responsibility to teach, to train a new partner because how do they know? They don't have a crystal ball. They can't read my mind.
Right. And like we're all different people, and like there's certain things that like turn us on and what they don't. Like I'm on like don't touch my feet. That's a no.
Hey,
I have a funny story. So wait, this is like 20 years ago, and I was in bed with this guy, and I thought he was just gonna like start at my feet and work upwards, and then
right.
he took my big toe and stuck it in his mouth, and I go, "What are you doing? What are you
Still in the
doing?"
mood. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm like, "You're 3 feet off. What are you doing?" Like, and I'm like, "What? Stop."
that's exactly right. People
Like,
don't
don't
know.
you like things like that? Like, I'm not kink shaming your foot fetish. Like, I don't dumb anybody's yum. That if you like
Mhm,
that, that's fine. But ask first. That's an asking question.
mhm.
Do
Right.
you like your toes sucked? Because I would have said, no, don't touch my feet.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. The idea of being able to talk with people
yeah.
about what we like and what we don't like, that's pretty important.
Yeah, and I think that that's like, I tell that story to illustrate a point that that was very mild thing, but there have been other people that, especially if you're, unfortunately, if you're in and from like a purity culture background,
Mhm.
there's certain things that are more extreme that you're not supposed to voice, you
Right.
know,
Right.
about, your body and what you like and when you don't like
Right.
you can't, it's almost like you can't say those things because you're supposed to be a sexual being and not be a sexual being at the exact same time. I don't
Right.
know how you do that.
Yeah, and that's actually a great point because that is a very big deal growing up in fundy families when it comes to sex. You're expected to have almost a complete disconnection from your desires, attractions, anything like that until you say these magic words in a church in front of God, in front of a bunch of people, and then you say, I do, and then you can magically flip that switch and everything will be fine and sex will be mind blowing. And that is just not how it works. If you have been shamed for your body, for your desires, for years and years, then you don't get to flip that switch overnight. It can often take time. There can be, women can really struggle with vaginismus, with very, very painful sex because they have spent years pretty much clenching their pelvis, so their genitalia, um, and then they have to get to a point where they are able to relax. And sometimes then we need to get physical pelvic floor physical therapists involved, and of
Hmm.
course working also with a counselor or therapist or sex and relationship coach. But it's for most people when you say, yeah, they're just going to flip that switch, it doesn't work like that.
I can't imagine it would, because after time, um and who we are as people, if you've been, because like, even if you didn't grow up in like a funny religion or any, like, you're still getting this messaging from society, you
Hmm.
know again, that you're very sexual, but also like, you're sexual, like if you're a woman, the message that you get that your sexuality belongs to men. It's not yours. It's something a man is supposed to teach you how to be a sexual being. And I'm like, oh, okay, well,
No
no.
problem.
but
That's not going to work.
like they're like the gatekeepers of sexuality, and I'm like, okay,
Right. Well,
hold your britches there, buddy.
well, this is the issue also that we can receive when we're growing up in purity culture. Boys are taught that thinking about girls is the problem. That's what's problematic. Girls are taught that their bodies are the problem, are problematic. This is why you can't wear anything revealing or form fitting or anything like that, because you are responsible for keeping boys from looking at you sexually, lustfully. It's very screwed up. It's very messed up.
Yeah, and and that's the thing, like I say all the time, like I have plenty of sexual thoughts about people all day long. And like, my brain, I call it my sexuality. I would like to tap that. And then I think about it and then I move on. And I think there has to be more of like, you can have thoughts, but it's not like you have a thought and you're gonna like, run someone down the road and like jump on them.
Right.
You're like, oh, that person is, attractive. I wonder what they look at like naked, and then you move on.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I
It
think
is true for men
that is a
too.
more realistic way to how we are. If you're an ethical person, that thought goes into your brain, you think about it for a minute. Sometimes you might think about it a little bit longer and have some fun time by yourself, and then you move on.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. And there are definitely co- relationship and sex coaches out there, and sexologists and sex educators who are very, very helpful. I know Erica, I want to call her Erica Smith. I interviewed her a couple times, but she developed this program called the Purity Culture Dropout Program. And she's a sex educator, I think in Philadelphia. She is such a delight, and
Mhm.
she didn't grow up religious, but she has a very good handle on purity culture. So I really like that, the Purity Culture Dropout program. It's good.
Yes, Jason, that is true. And you don't need to advertise to someone you thought about them naked. You know what I mean? That is
That's
true.
that's right. Yes. And you know what? I do also want to say something that I'm sure your viewers already know, but it might be something for a parent to discuss with their teenage son. It's we if we haven't asked to see a picture of male genitalia, don't send it to us, please, because that can feel like an assault on our eyes. And some of us have actually been assaulted before. It can be extremely triggering. If we don't consent to it, don't do it. That's a horrible thing to do to somebody. That's
I
my
was a
thing.
manager and somebody sent me a dick pic and I fired him because and I was like, okay, now you're fired. And as I say before, like unless I ask you, because I've had people just in the kink community and just like being a woman online, um, like send me their penis, and I'm like, when I say okay, that's a penis, it does absolutely nothing for me. So thank you for okay. But also at the same time, it's like, I didn't ask you for this. I don't send my genitals out to people that don't ask. I don't even send my genitals out to people that do ask because I'm just like, I don't really want my, I don't want to do that. Like, you have to buy me dinner first. Like,
And
we
then
have to
you,
have a conversation, hang out a little
yeah,
bit. Like, genital showing is like a like that's a private time and together.
yes,
Like,
totally agree. Because once it's
yeah.
out there, once someone has it on their phone, you have no control over what they are going to do with that. So, yeah, we need to be careful about those things.
Yeah, don't send your genitals on no matter what sex you are or gender. Do not send your genitals to anybody unless they ask for it. It's not good. And I go, plus there's porn. There's plenty of other genitals you can look at. Go watch some porn. Do that instead.
Mhm, mhm.
I like it is one of those things like I had to tell my son. I'm like, don't send your penis to anybody. Girls don't like that.
Good
They
for
don't.
you. Yeah, excellent. Good. I wish more mothers said that to their
Like I
sons.
can tell you, I'm like ask your female friends. Just ask them and go. If a guy sent you a picture of his dick, would you be okay with it? And I guarantee they'll say no
Yeah.
because you did not ask.
And then I think also uh, teaching boys that it can take, it can take women and girls, uh, vagina owners, uterus owners, can take us longer sometimes to warm up. Not necessarily, not all the time, but sometimes, and most of it, a lot of it happens up here. So we can't be, if we're so busy thinking about, did the laundry get done? What about the dentist appointment? All these things like that. We have to really be able to shift and focus on the here and now to enjoy the sex. So making sure that some of those things are taken care of. Yes. Consent is everything. Thank you,
Yeah.
Shelby.
Well, it's funny because like you know this, especially as you get older, you kind of have to plan it almost because there's so like I've been with my husband for almost 20 years. Um and we have a very good sex life, but also at the same time we have to plan it because we're both very busy people and we're tired and old. Like we're middle aged. It's just like it's not spontaneous. It's very rare spontaneous anymore. It is planned. Is
Right,
it as romantic? No. but but also if we're both stressed and tired, or like one of us is stressed and tired and the other one is aroused, like wants to have sex, I don't want to have sex with someone that's not into having sex with me right now, like,
right,
or vice versa. And I think
right.
that's, it's not an insult on you. There, like, I'm like, he'll be like, I'm just tired. Can we wait till like Friday? You know,
It
when I can
also
sleep in on Saturday.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the older men get, there are
Mhm.
blood flow
Yeah.
issues, and so then sometimes, well, frequently, and maybe even usually, they need to take some medication in order to be
Yeah. And
able
that's
to sustain an erection. And so that requires some planning as well, and being able to actually talk about these things with a partner, and then also knowing that if our partner wants to do something and we don't, our partner can take care of themselves, or vice versa. My husband knows if I'm interested and whatever, for whatever reason he's not, I can take care of myself, and we're totally
right.
fine with that.
I'm the same way. I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, I got toys. I'll be fine.
Always, yes.
Like well, and like, and that's the thing when about being shameless is that you can say like, okay, you know, like, or sometimes you just masturbate because you're stressed and like this will help me fall asleep. So
Yeah,
like,
brains
but
too.
like having knowing your partner really well too, that helps because we've been together for almost 20 years. We know each other better than we know anyone else. And like if we say like, well, I'm like, I don't want to, and then he'll be like, we'll both be like, well, okay, let's wait a couple, you know, like what we usually wait till the weekend. That's usually what happens.
Yes, yes. And
It's
so can
always the weekend, guys.
was your relationship open from the start, or is that something you care to share?
It's been very recent. It's only been like 3-4 years, because like I had been in an open relationship with my ex-husband, but my ex-husband was at the time, I think he's better now, but at the time, was emotionally abusive and would use my bisexuality against me.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
like double standard stuff. Um, you know, so and then when me and my husband met and got together, we were perfectly fine being monogamous. I wanted other partners, but I was also but I was like, it's fine. I think I had to like do some work on myself and be in a healthy normal relationship. um
Mhm.
and then as we both got older, we were realized, oh, we can explore, you know, but we have rules. Like our major rule is that when we're sleeping with other people, it's all in the same bed. Like we don't I don't we're not I say we're like poly light. We want to be in relationships with other people and have sex with our, like they say, we want to have sex with our friends. Like, but we don't date outside of each other. We don't have other partners outside of,
Yeah. And
like,
there are
it's
no
like we're
secrets.
like it would be in like quad, you
Yeah.
know, or something like that, or like have like a third person.
Mhm.
It's what we prefer. And it's because he's like, we both kind of say like, I kind of want to share in your pleasure, and if you're not here, I can't do that even if it's with another person. So that's, you know, that's how we function as a poly couple.
Yeah.
Like we're poly, but right now, like life is like we're so busy right now. I don't, it's just hard. Like, and like I like, okay, I'm 40. I'm gonna be 48 on Wednesday. I am lazy. Like I don't want to date.
Well, happy
But
birthday
there's
to you.
there's a few people in our friend group that I know that, you know, I can have kinky time with, and that's great. And that's
Mhm.
good. That's part of our friend group. Wonderful.
Mhm.
Other times it's just the two of us, and that's fine too. And I think we found that balance, as a couple, and other people's relationships, like, Glenda is and several poly relationships, and it makes her deliciously happy. And I think it should make you, like, if what you're doing is making you deliciously happy, keep doing the thing that's making you deliciously happy.
Yes, yeah. And you're right. There have to be rules. People have to understand the rules of engagement. That's how we feel safe. And that's how we are safe when we know the rules for something. And so there are lots of books out there on the topic as well that people can read if they want to learn more about opening their
The
relationship.
Ethical Slut is a really good book.
Yes, there's lots of good ones out there for sure.
And the fellow rope's really good for gay men. Um, I haven't read that one, but a lot of my gay poly men sexuality have said that book's a very good book. Even if you're like not a gay man, but understand like men sexual politics in a weird
Mhm,
way can it
mhm.
can be helpful. So, um, it's just very interesting because like we were um Jason Friedman was on last week, and we were talking about how like the queer community tends to be the people that were just like, we need to talk about sex more. And we need to have more conversations about consent and
Yeah.
different forms of sexuality and gender expression and things like that. We tend to be those people.
Right. And
Yeah.
part of recovering from purity culture then also is normalizing talking about sex and normalizing sex in itself. And so sometimes working with clients, I have said to them, do you know anything about bonobos, bonobo monkeys, and how they resolve issues and work things out in their monkey community? Well, they have sex, lots of sex. Everybody's having sex with everybody else all the time, and just to kind of normalize the idea for them that, well, we are basically animals and we do like to have sex. That's just how it is.
Yeah. I mean, like, I like to think myself as a little bit more involved in a bonobo, but not by much, like a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't want to have sex with everybody in my community. Like, I guess I'm picky that way.
you should.
But it's one of those things that like we're animals. We just have these bigger brains that have an ethics center. you know.
Mhm.
Um so uh when so through your work that talking to people that have come from purity culture or just had some really like messed up ideas about and it's not like and again like it's not it's bad that people were taught that, but I also at the same time I have so much empathy for it because like we're all given it on a subtle level, even if you're like if you grow up secular. Like you're gonna get some kind of fucked up information about sex and sexuality that you're gonna have to work through later.
Mhm.
Um, so for people when you see them evolve out of it, one like what are some of the things they've said to you about like coming out of these ideas, and two like um is it is it based on the level of indoctrination, or like if you're more like on a not as deep, it's not so bad, where if it's like really really deep, it's like now we have to work through your trauma and your sexual trauma, let's do that.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it depends on how much we have internalized. So, I mean, two people can sit beside each other in a pew at church and hear the same, messaging or whatever from a sermon, and one of them leaves afterwards and is like, oh well, okay, yeah, that's no big deal, and the other one might really, really internalize it. And it also might have to do with the rules and expectations in their family, what they're learning at home, so it is different for everybody. But in general, yeah, when you've been told that even having a sexual thought or being turned on is a sin, or if you've been taught that self pleasure, masturbation is a sin, those are things that some people have to work through. That for other people, even who did grow up in purity families, it just never really took with them. So they don't care. They're fine. They've never had that big a deal around it. But trauma is subjective. Not everybody,
Right.
not everything that happens to a couple of people is going to traumatize them both. That's just not how it works.
And that's a good point. Because like I said, I had to go through like some toxic messaging, but that was more about like sexuality wasn't really my problem. It was more like this uh feminist, it's the feminist in me, like this shaming of women more that I had to work through. Not so much about my queerness or my sexuality. It was more like it was more like a self-esteem thing going on uh about body image and
Yeah.
certain expectations you're that's put upon you about like how you're supposed to look, and that sort of thing. Like that was stuff I was taught in religion that I had to work through.
Right,
And
and that affects people who aren't even religious. If we're talking about
right.
body image, body dysmorphia, unrealistic ideas from social media that idolize maybe 1 or 2% of the population that have this incredible body type where they're tall and have no fat and they're just curvy and whatever else,
and,
whatever
and, and some of
people
them
like
just have really good genetics.
that, right?
Like you hit the genetic jackpot.
Yeah, that's right. So everybody, I think nowadays, because of social media, um, males and females, everybody can feel that pressure, and we have to push back against it. That's when loving ourselves as we are becomes an act of rebellion, and I am there for that. You
Yeah,
got to
and
love
I
yourself, and the older you get, the more you have to work at it sometimes.
you do, because like things don't bounce back as well as they used to.
No,
When you get up to our age, you're just kind of like, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's all.
I was wearing a back brace today because my back was hurting so bad. Like I was just like, oh my god, I'm like, I hate my life. My back hurts all the time.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you
I
know,
ended up having major back surgery about a year ago, and I never would have imagined that for myself. And then it said
right.
that recovery time after that. But you know what else? I have my new husband that I'm married to, who's a wonderful atheist and a retired scientist. He is also 22 years my senior. So that is something also. As we age, there are things you might not know about. So educate yourself as you age,
My
so
poor
it's
husband.
not going to be such a shock.
And I think so too. Like, because my husband's 7.5 years older than I am. Um, and him just being in his 50s, I mean, in my late 40s, and also like I'm in perimenopause mode right now, and I'm constantly hot, and like
So,
my hormones are all over the place. Like I'm aroused like all the time, and but also at the same time, I'm too hot to do anything about
right,
it. Like I don't
don't
want
touch
anyone to don't touch me. I'm gross. Like it's a wonderful place to be. Like you wake up and you're just drenched in sweat. Like
me.
perimenopause is so much fun, everybody. Let me tell you. So
Right.
great.
And so anybody who has a uterus or is in a relationship with somebody who has a uterus, you owe it to yourself to educate yourself about
Yeah.
menopause, perimenopause, the changes that we go through, and then us to understand the changes that our partner will go through. And then again, working on how can I love myself at this time? I do not look the same that I did 10 years ago. I don't even
No.
look the same that I did 5 years ago. A lot has happened since then. Am I still worthy of love? I've gained 20 pounds or whatever. Am I still worthy of love? Yeah, I think I am still worthy of love. So, okay, if someone else has a problem with it, it can be their problem. I'm too busy getting stuff done and loving my life to be worried about what other people think.
Well, and I think like also too, like, like I can't keep up with like a 25-year-old, and why would I? Like this is why like I don't want to have sex with a 25-year-old. Like it's like no. Like I'm a 10 year either side, like 10 years ahead of me or 10 years behind me. We're all still in the same like bracket. You
Right?
know,
Yeah, yeah. And I
like I
never
don't want to
would
have
have imagined it for myself to be with someone 22 years older than me. And I actually had to ask myself some pretty serious questions about how will it be, if he
yeah,
passes away before me, how will I do getting on without him? Because I love him very much. Or what happens if he's incapacitated? What will that do to my life? You have to think about these things. And I weighed them and I decided, man, is he ever worth it? He is a fine human being.
I was paralyzed for I came down with a condition back in 2012 called transverse myelitis, and it was a sudden paralysis.
Yeah.
And it wasn't certain that I would regain my ability to walk. And my husband was the one that was taking care of me in the hospital, and he was the one that he's like, we'll figure it out, we'll make it work. And I was like, okay. I'm like, real love is not like, chocolates and romance and stuff. It's like he was willing to wipe my butt. like
Yeah.
that's love. Like, I'm
Yes.
willing to help you and help you through the really, really tough times. And when you're crying, you're not sure if you're even going to, your vagina is going to work properly. And like,
Yeah.
this was a very terrifying. And he's like, we'll figure it out. I love you. And that's how I know, like, he's the person, like,
Oh,
if the same thing would happen to him, I would, I would, I would help. I would still be there and helping him and take care of him.
oh,
That's how
beautiful.
you know. And I was only 34 when that happened. So
Oh,
I was relatively young. Yeah. So, um, no, wait, hold
I'm
on.
glad you recovered.
Yeah, me too. I can walk. It was. I'll tell you that story another time.
Yeah.
But during that time, that's one of the things that you learn about, like, your partner and if they're willing to stick by you. Like you hear all the time about like these awful people that like their partner gets like cancer and then they cheat on them and or they leave them or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, because you were a symbol to them, not a person.
Mm,
And I think and I think also too, because, and this is a result of purity culture and these ideas of like, this person represents, like, I like, me and my husband, we complement each other, and he's my best friend, but I don't complete him in any way. Like, he was complete before he met me.
yeah. Yeah.
you know, like, you were perfectly fine. Um, I needed work because I was going through a divorce. But
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, like, do I want to be with my husband for the rest of our life, but also at the same time, I know that if our relationship did not work out, I would be like, I'm a catch, I'll be fine.
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
get
Yeah.
laid again, it'll be fine, I'll
Right.
figure it out.
Right.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
fine. But
And telling people, oh, sorry, go on.
no, but also too, this idea that somebody else is supposed to complete you is something that is, kind of, you're brought together and made like one person and one
It's
flesh and things like
fantasy.
that. And I'm like, okay, that's a little weird.
Yeah, yeah, it's religious fantasy. And
Yeah.
something else that I end up going over with some of my clients, especially if they, like I said, married for religious reasons when they were young and they realize that's not the union that they want to be in anymore. Then we talk about the fact that divorce is not failure. Divorce is simply transition. It's when you're transitioning to another time in your life and you don't have to beat yourself up over it, and it's possible to divorce um, amicably. Hopefully. Sometimes you do have to really make a hard cutoff if someone's been abusive, but for a lot of people, you can still maintain kindness. And I have a very good relationship and friendship with my ex-husband. I'm really happy to say.
Me and my ex-husband are civil. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that good.
civil,
we
civil is good.
Civil's good. Like, and also too, like, now that the kids aren't small anymore, like, it's very rare I have to communicate with him. But if I do, like, we can talk as adults,
Yeah.
which is great. Two of our friends, we just found out, are starting the divorce process. We found out over the weekend, and you can just feel the pain,
Oh,
because they've been together since they were like 16, 17 years old, and now
wow.
they're in their mid 30s. And
Wow. Yeah.
I'm like,
Big change.
yeah, yeah. Um, but like, as someone that's been through it, I'm like, I remember exactly where you were. And all of a sudden, but I didn't say this to my friend, but I was like, but I was telling like the husband, I said 6 months to a year from now, they're gonna look back and like her husband's leaving her because
Mm,
he's going through like a life change,
mhm,
and he realized that through his own struggles and realizations that he's like, I don't know who I am without her, and I need to figure that out.
mhm.
And I go, 6 months or a year, she's going to suddenly realize that this is probably one of the best things for her, because why would you want to be in a relationship with someone that's not in love with you?
Mm.
Like loves you, but not in love with you. And I think that it's something that she hasn't realized yet, but I think those of us that have gone through divorce get. You're like, oh, yeah, it sucked at the time, but
If someone
yeah,
wants to leave, we have to let them.
yeah,
We have to let them. But then we can, once we get to that point of acceptance, instead of kidding ourselves and begging and pleading and all that stuff, then we can start working on our future, on how we want our future to be.
yeah. And I think that, and that's healthy. I think that that's part of, you know, having mature and like realistic expectations in relationships as you get older. Um, because I think there's a lot of shame put on getting a divorce,
Right.
because we have these like pie in the sky like romantic notions of love, and I'm like, yeah, those are great for movies, and
Right.
but like I married my first husband when I was 21.
Oh, wow.
So I'll sit
That's
there
a
and think
lot.
about that for a minute, guys. 21 years old. Remember you at 21? Did you make all your best decisions when you were 21 years old? Like you didn't. But I was kind of forced into getting married because my parents didn't want me living in sin. I had been living with my ex-husband for a year. And because of religion, my mom was like, my parents were like, you can't be living in sin. So it's kind of like this pressure to get married,
Mhm.
which is toxic and bad. Where
Yeah. Did your
I'm
relationship
telling
with
my
your
kids, I'm like,
parents
please
thrive?
live with your partner before you get married, please.
Right. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Were your parents able to respect your decision when you split up?
to um it was like a reluctant acceptance.
Okay.
But then like after they met Todd, and saw how wonderful he was to me, that kind of went away. Like,
Oh,
because I was much happier, and also especially how he saw how he treated my kids. So I a lot of that anxiety went away. Um,
mm,
because the proof is in the pudding. Um,
exactly.
but like I get it. Like if they were concerned, and they had certain expectations for me, but they had been through another divorce with one of my brothers before me. Um, so and then one of my brothers got divorced. So, and another one. So
It's really
I
a
think
part of
only
life.
two of my brothers have been in like very long term, like 30 plus years
Yeah.
marriages.
Well, I'm one of four children. I'm the only one that's been married, and I'm the only one that's been divorced. And now I'm married again. But none of my siblings ever married. So they partnered on and off with people, but they weren't religious. I was the religious one. So I think the whole marriage
That's
thing was
funny.
more important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny because, like, yeah, this is my like. I was married before, and then I realized I was like, oh, this isn't working. Then I'm in my husband now, and like I can't imagine my life without him. So and that's how I know, because I'm like I don't want you to leave. I like you. You're like
Oh,
I not only love you, but I like you as a person. Like I like being with you.
yeah.
You're my best friend. And I because that's what it's basically like a lifetime friendship with sex. Like,
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
yeah,
My new husband, every night when we're curled up in bed and just before we fall asleep, he says, that how much he loves me and he hopes that I'll really be his partner again tomorrow. And that is
oh,
just so, it's very sweet. It's very precious. And we also had the agreement before we got married that we will be able to talk with each other about anything, anything. So if there's an attraction that develops to another person, there's no
mhm.
sneaking around. We would talk with each other about what's going on, so nobody gets sidelined, and it's just a beautiful, wonderful relationship. I'm very happy.
I think also too, like that like because we have this rule like we can talk to each other about anything. Because I don't lie well. I suck at it. And I can suss out when someone's lying to me. I'm very good at this. I can suss it out. I'm like you're hiding something. I know it because you're acting weird. Like, and like so we've had discussions. I'm like if you're attracted to somebody else, if I'm not doing it for you, just tell me. Like I just don't cheat on me. I'm like I'd rather have you tell me that it's not working than to go sleep with somebody else and then I find out about it later and then it's going to be like chaos and hurt. And so like I'd rather have the little bits of a sting that you're kind of falling out of love with me and you found somebody else attractive and want to see where that goes rather than like trying to hold on to something. Or I'm like maybe we need a sabbatical, I don't know. but like
Yeah.
but like don't. And that's one thing that we've agreed that we talk to each other about like everything. And we also have a rule that when we're angry to not have conversations. We have our code word is I need to go have tea with this. Which means
Okay.
I need to go have tea with my demons and process what I'm feeling right now before we continue this conversation, because I'm starting to think about stuff in our past that I want to bring up that have nothing to do with this conversation that we're having right now.
Very
And
mature. That's great.
does it always work? No. But I try. But we established that early on, and he said that was something I taught him because when he was in other relationships, he would want to talk about it right then, and I'd be like, "It's not productive for me to talk about this right now because I'm angry and I'm in emotional brain. I'm not in rational brain where I can like look at things from your perspective. I'm just in my emotions, and it's not a good time." you know.
Yeah, and that's actually something that comes up when I'm working with people recovering from purity culture and people who
Mm.
grew up in very religious families. Often they have developed codependency as a coping mechanism. And so, learning about codependency, learning about over functioning and then the other person's under functioning and passive aggressive behavior, passive aggressive communication, that was something that I needed to recognize in myself, and made a point of that will not be a part of my relating going forward. I Passive aggression does not help anybody. We will speak plainly and respectfully with each other. We're not going to have a nasty tone of voice or anything like that. And if we need time apart to calm down, like you're talking about, then that's what we do, and that's fine.
Well, like it's not like I always perfect. When you're not going to perfectly execute this all the time because we're people, but you try. Like I try. I try to, for the most part, be like I'm going to be an adult. you know. Um, but I think also too that's kind of taught like in especially like religious relationships that women are to repress.
Yeah,
Um, and that's why you see like this sort of like red pill like pickup artists sort of like culture online of men that are saying like don't allow a woman to express her emotions to you, like
that is so
and
misogynistic.
like be mean. Which and I'm like how do you I'm like listen, I'm like I don't know which woman is falling for this, and if she is, she has very low self-esteem and needs to work on
Right,
herself.
right. Yeah,
um because if you're a woman of substance and you have self-respect, like any man that treated me that way or any person, regardless of I wanted to date them or not, or just a friend, I'd be like, I don't want to be around you, you're a jerk. Like why would I,
right,
why?
right.
And but I
So the
think that there's this idea that women are supposed to just be of a vagina
Mhm.
and not a person. And I'm like, no, we're people. Like,
Right, yeah. It's a profoundly unhealthy person who is saying those things. And so we don't want profoundly unhealthy partners for ourselves. So this is again where I say girls especially need to be taught that they are valuable, they are worthwhile, so that they don't fall prey to these things. And also, I recommend having your kid learn an instrument or having them engage in sports or something special about them, an activity that they like to do and are good at, that helps to build their self-esteem so they don't fall for the bullshit to the same degree.
Right. Like, one of my kids was really into art. The other one was really into engineering, building robots. So,
Oh, yeah.
and but that's the thing. Um, like with because I was very concerned, like my especially my son getting involved in like pickup artistry, like toxic
Oh,
masculine cultures, and
yeah.
now he makes fun of the same stuff I do. It's great. I'm like I'm fine. Like like it's actually really cute. Like, can I share a cute story? So his girlfriend lives in Mexico,
Hmm.
and he didn't, my oldest told me this, that I wasn't supposed to know, and now I'm just telling everybody that he was learning Spanish so he could talk
Oh,
to her in her native language, and she was learning English, to talk to him, but he decided to learn Spanish because he wanted to be able to talk to her in her native language, and I thought that was like the most adorable thing ever.
sweet. Oh,
I
that's
know. I was like,
lovely.
oh.
Oh, very
So
nice.
I'm
Uh,
my kids are fine. Like,
yes, yes. And you know who else can be sometimes especially vulnerable to these kind of this toxic manosphere kind of thing. If we have a child that is not well connected socially, and they tend to be more comfortable instead on the computer or just playing games, and they're not interacting with people in real life, that's a vulnerability for them. They can, if because people are actively trying to recruit uh, and 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 poison our children on some of these things. So we need to make sure that we're also being aware of what our kids are digesting by way of social media, what they're spending time on the computer, and that if we hear them make a comment like, oh, all women are that way, or oh, all women are gold diggers, no, we call them out on that immediately. And we can do it gently and respectfully. Oh, that's a bit of thunder here you might be hearing. But just letting them know, actually, I'm not a gold digger. Who do you know that's a gold digger, dear? I actually would like you to tell me this. And we spend time talking with them so that they know they're being taught something that's not true.
and I think that is important to, like, because my son is he's a very introverted person. Like, he only had a handful of friends. He liked to be online. He liked to play video games. He was not, and I'm not going to force him to be social. That's like, I don't want
Right.
to make him. SR's here. Hi, honey. So like it was one of those things that when he started, you know, I was like, you need friends outside of your computer, man. Now he's in the army in Alaska, and he shares his bunk with a conspiracy theorist that's a Trumper, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. But, like, my poor kid. But so he's like, I don't know how I ended up here, but here I am. So they talk
Interesting.
about anime together. That's what they talk about. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay, talk about anime.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
find
Good.
something, the thing you can talk about. But also too, like, he will not tolerate like any like queer phobic stuff in front of him, because he's like, hey, my mom's queer. I have a queer sibling. I there's not I like he's been raised around queer people. Like, his uncle Vinny, he's known since he was 3 years old, is gay as the day is long. So
Mhm. Mhm.
he doesn't put up with that type of stuff, and I'm like, see, he's fine, like, he's fine. But that's because we were teaching him, like, at a young age, that there's diverse people, and there's diverse perspectives, and diverse people way people live, and as long as everybody's being kind to one another, you're not allowed to judge that. You're allowed to judge people's behavior when it harms other people, and they should be
Yeah.
judged because it's causing harm.
Right, right. And I mean, you mentioned the word diverse there, and certainly it makes me think of the craziness that's going on in the United States right now, being against diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, what kind of an asshole is going to be against those things? But anyway, that is also another reason why I didn't want to cancel the Shameless Sexuality event. So it had been planned to be in person in Seattle. And then I decided, no, I'm going to hold it online because sexual repression is going to get worse and worse as long as this administration is in office because of Project 2025. Because Christian supremacists are in charge of things and they like to repress. And repression leads to obsession. We know that is true when it comes to sexuality, but they pretend that it's not true.
And which is very weird for me because like for someone that, I feel like nothing should be forbidden to discuss.
Right.
Nothing as and being a healthy sexual person is part of being a human being. And then if we're like going back where, that, where women are just basically vaginas and to make you sandwiches, like, no, man. Like, I'm sorry, like, yes, like I am a sexual being, but that's not all of me. Like, it's an aspect of who I am. Because guess what? Let's just say tomorrow my vagina don't work no more. Still going to be a valuable person. Still going to be able to contribute to the world. So
Yes.
shut up.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I think it's a great idea to encourage young people to be reading The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret
Yeah,
Atwood. She's so, boy, oh boy, she just got it
I read
right
the
on
book. I
the head.
couldn't watch the show. It was too
Oh,
real. I was like, I'm like, and plus, like, SA, I can't watch that stuff. It triggers me because I'm a survivor of it, so I can't watch it because it just sends me. I'm like, know your triggers, everybody. So,
that's it.
yeah.
Yeah. But I will say for anyone who is
But the
interested,
book is
reading the
wonderful,
book
like
and
not in
very,
like a fun way.
very interesting and very chilling. And I did
Yeah.
interview Margaret Atwood on my podcast, on the Divorcing Religion podcast. So people can
Mhm.
go to my YouTube channel and they can watch that interview with Margaret Atwood.
I saw your clip on TikTok with her. But like I don't want to live there. I don't want to live in Gilead. I don't.
No,
I feel like I am because I live like, I live in Florida and we have a 6-week abortion ban.
no.
Which is just insane to me because like when I was on birth control when I got pregnant with my son.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't find out till 9 weeks after.
Yeah. Hmm.
So if let's just say, it was now and I wanted to have an abortion, I live in Florida, I couldn't be able to get one. And
Oh,
now they're
my God.
tracking, they want to track people if you go to another state. People are being arrested when there's like, illegal abortions now starting to happen like in Texas. So this is the reality. This happened in the 1940s, 30s and 40s when certain like in England, for example, I'm sure it happened here, but I'm using England as an example when abortion was banned.
Hmm.
Women were having back alley abortions and they were dying in the
Yeah.
thousands because it's not safe.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
this is a product of purity culture because there's this idea that our goal, our purpose is to breed brood mares. And it's just like, no, I'm not a horse. Shut up. Like,
Wow. Yeah. I used to go when I was very religious. I would go with my daughter to the anti-abortion protests in our city. We'd wear tape over our mouths, like we're silenced, this sort of thing. Like, and now, of course, I'm instead, I'll volunteer to be with someone at the hospital when they are going to have an abortion, because abortion is health care. It's a girl's right. It's a woman's right to do what they want to do with their own body and to protect themselves. So we need to keep speaking out, especially in the United States, and reminding women that
well,
their body is their own.
I'm just gonna say, just because it doesn't happen in Canada, guess what? You guys are really close. Like, because you just need the right people to
Yeah.
gain power, and then because that's what happened to us. We kind of coasted for a while, and we didn't have the eye on the prize.
Yeah.
We kind of took our eyes away from it, thinking that like, oh, we did it.
Yeah.
Now what? And now we regress back and now we have to do it again, and it's going to be harder now
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
the checks and
Canada is
balances
very
are
aware.
getting chipped
Aware.
away.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, I mean, and Canada's never been so unified as a nation since the person running your country started threatening to annex us. So it's
Mm.
interesting to see what's going on in Canada because typically there feels like a huge divide between liberals and conservatives, but everyone has come together quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in our big election at the end of April.
I mean, like, I like good for Trudeau to be like, okay, well, like we're not gonna like we're gonna kind of separate and not engage with the United States anymore. Not great for us, but also at the same time, I was like, no, I understand. Do that because we suck right
Right.
now. So,
Yes. Yes.
unfortunately,
And he's gone. We have a new prime minister now, Prime Minister Carney, at least for the next few
yeah,
weeks until we have our big election. But yeah, the whole world is really struggling and suffering right now because one man has too much power. Oh, I
yeah,
got my a
and that's
squirrel right
sad.
over the house.
Well, but the thing is, this kind of, like the fact that you had to move. Like, if you had done this last year, there'd be
Yeah.
no worry. Nobody, I'd be like, like the
Mhm.
people that had signed up could go to Canada and go to the conference, or you could have had it here, and then people from Canada, like there would be nothing, there'd be no problems. But for some reason, but now there's so much uncertainty
Oh, yeah.
that and what does this mean that you had to move it online, which I think is really fucking stupid, but
Ah,
that's the reality of it
right.
because I we live in hell. So like
Ways, it actually is much better that I've been able to move it online because
yeah,
I've massively slashed the price. So now it's only $99 USD, and that gets people live access online so they can watch and interact, ask questions with the people as the session goes on, and then they have access to the recordings after. That's 99 bucks. And if someone is a student and they're really on a press 50 bucks will just get them all of the recordings from all of the sessions. So I think it's much cheaper and more people can attend because they don't have to be traveling for it. So shamelesssexuality.org is where people can go to find out more. And by
uh, yeah, I put the link in the
thank
chat.
you.
It's also in the doobly doo.
Nice.
um,
Wonderful.
so it's there. Um, I might sign up for it. I don't know. I don't feel like
Wonderful.
am I the audience? Not really. But
You already have
I
things.
have no shame. So,
Ah, yes. Yes. Well, and
but
people
I highly encourage people that are working through, not only the religious, even if you're just like you've gone through the religious trauma shit, but you're like, hey, is it okay for me to use anal beads? Like I'm not making fun of this as a joke. Like having these ideas that certain sexual activities are like gross or forbidden or weird. Like this is the type of stuff you need, like to be like, yes, it's okay. Like
yes,
if you
yes.
want to, fine. Like as long as you're
Also,
safe.
therapists should really be signing up for this event because any therapist who has a client who's recovering from religious trauma, there's probably going to be purity culture indoctrination in there as well. So, therapists, social workers, mental health clinicians, coaches, you're going to want to be paying attention as well.
So is there a lot of, because like I know the circles that we swim in, there's a lot of talk of religious trauma, and like I know it's still relatively, new in mental health
Yeah.
as a manifestation of trauma. But what have you found, like, especially, because you're doing the work, you're working with it. Have you found that how's it being accepted by like the mental health professionals and psychiatry
Oh,
and things like that?
yeah, yeah. I think with every year that passes, it's becoming more and more acknowledged, I would say, in society at large, people who had never heard of it before.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so it's becoming a more popular idea that people are starting to understand about. Okay, I'm looking at a question here from Mark, wondering about where you can learn about my work or the coming conference. Oh, thank you. Yes, yes. So you can go to shamelesssexuality.org.
I'll put the link again.
Yes, thank you.
There you
And
go.
then to find
There you
out
go,
about
Mark.
and you can also go to my website, which is divorcingreligion.com. And there you can learn about some of the work that I do. My other conference is Conference on Religious Trauma. My YouTube channel, I think that is also called Divorcing Religion. If you type that in YouTube, you should get there. And it has episodes from my podcast, Divorcing Religion podcast, and then the Conference on Religious Trauma and Shameless Sexuality, Life After Purity Culture. And please share those, with your clients. That's a fantastic free resource, that YouTube channel. I have hundreds of videos on there.
Also, Mark, if you want to be part of the Secular Therapy Project, you should go to seculartherapy.org and become a
Excellent.
registered secular therapist on the network. You should do that
Love
too.
it. Excellent. Great shout out. Love Secular Therapy Project. Love Recovering from Religion. Journey Free also is an important group for people recovering from religious trauma.
Yeah. So yeah, like I have all the resources. I have so many resources. If you go down into the doobly doo description, I have a whole list of secular
Yes.
supports links.
Excellent.
So
Yeah.
it's on there, like sexual, secular recovery, our for our
Mhm.
professional support, queer rights groups, like it's all in there,
Yeah.
because
And
I'm that
I
person.
do also I do
Like the
also
clergy
offer
project, all that stuff.
okay, I do also offer a free support group for people recovering from religious trauma. It's online every Tuesday night, 5 o'clock Pacific. I'll also be opening up a Thursday option for folks in the Eastern time zone. So, yeah, I'm doing everything I can think of to do to try and support people recovering from religious trauma.
I think that's great. Janice, I just love you. Like
Oh, thank
you're
you.
like we don't talk much, but I was like, I miss Janice. I'm gonna ask her to be on my
Oh,
show.
so
But
kind
it
of
worked
you.
out because
Thank
you had
you.
a conference to promote. So that was great. But I
Yes.
would like I actually I would it'd be really cool after the conference is done, and you've had time to like absorb and decompress to come back and talk about, you know, um, what the conference was like, what kind of conversations, like do like a little wrap up. Maybe I can get Glinda
Yeah.
to come. I think
Oh,
that.
I would love that. That'd be totally fun. I would really want to do that. Yes, please ask me back.
Oh yeah, yeah. Janice was just on the Apostate Sister, so watch her interview. So
That's right.
I was just on
And
there too. So I was
oh,
like,
very good. Yeah, and
yeah,
I'm
my
interviewing
episode
them
came out
tomorrow.
right before yours did. So
Oh, I love it. Yes, yes. And I saw that you had Seth Andrew has been on the Freethinkers Fireside, and I was just on Seth's show not long ago. Freedom from Religion Foundation also, they had me on, I think in February, talking about my book. So we're definitely running in the same circles.
yeah, like that's the thing, like we all know that's the thing. Yeah, like we're in the secular activist space. Like we all kind of just swim together, and then eventually we all start fighting each other. Like so, but that's really great because those of us that are in this space really really want to help people. Like I don't get, like, again, like if you give money to my coffee and I make 20 my coffee and I can make $27 a month to pay for my Streamlabs account, then we're fine. Like like I
Yeah.
do this because I want to have these conversations with people. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for being here. I really really appreciate it. Please go to shamelesssexuality.org to check out about the conference. Go to
Dot
divorcingreligion.com.
com. Mhm.
Yeah, I put it in the it's in the doobly doo, guys.
Thank you.
Go subscribe to Janice's channel. So go do all that. She's also on TikTok a lot. You do way more TikTok. I know I need to do TikTok content, and I just I'm like not wanting to do it. I'm too lazy.
I
Like,
hear you. I hear you. Well, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed our conversation.
me too. So thank you so much. So everybody, just a reminder, I this coming Tuesday, Val from she's part of the atheist activist community more on Twitch. Um, and she's going to talk about youth group culture, especially because she grew up Catholic, and how that relates to purity culture to young people. So we're going to talk about that on Thursday. And then this Saturday, I'm going to be on Neil 604 Atheist channel again, doing
Neil.
update on my deconversion stories update. So I'm going to be there on Saturday. And so I'm not going to look up who's on next week. You'll find out. Like, I'll post a video. Usually you know what's going on to the end of the week. Anyway, my wonderful people, please like, subscribe. Also, this week, be kind. Give someone a compliment and stay skeptical. And I will see you all on Thursday. Everybody have a great day. Bye.
Bye.